Let me ask you something that might sound uncomfortable, but it could save your life. What if your body was already telling you that your prostate is failing, and you simply haven't recognized the signs? Most men don't talk about it, they brush it off. But right now, all across the country, elderly men are silently living with a prostate that's slowly shutting down while believing it's just a normal part of aging. My name is Dr. Kara. I'm a urologist and men's health specialist with over 30 years of experience helping older men navigate the realities of aging with dignity, strength, and clarity. And I've seen it time and time again. By the time a man walks into my office in crisis, the signs were there months, even years earlier, but they were missed because they were subtle, quiet, easy to ignore. That's why I created this message, because there are exactly 6 silent signs that your prostate may be in critical condition. These symptoms can appear long before pain, infection, or cancer. And if you catch them early, you may have the power to stop the decline and even reverse some of the damage. So stay with me, because later in this video, I'll also reveal the single most common daily habit that's secretly making prostate inflammation worse. Most men over 60 do this without even realizing it, and stopping could change everything. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed to Wise Living yet, I encourage you to do so now and be sure to turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any future videos designed to help men over 60 stay healthy, strong, and informed. And if this message speaks to you, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and let me know how I can improve these videos to better serve you. Now, let's talk about the very first warning sign, one that often gets dismissed as just a normal part of aging, but it's not. If you find yourself waking up multiple times a night to urinate, your body may be sign 1, a signaling that your prostate is already under serious strain. Sign number 1, night-time urination that gradually gets worse. Nocturia. I want to tell you about a man I saw not long ago. Let's call him Bill, 71 years old, retired teacher, proud father of 3. He came to me after months of waking up 3, sometimes 4 times a night, just to use the bathroom. At first he didn't think much of it. "Doc," he said, "it's just old age, right?" But as we dug deeper, it became clear that what he thought was normal wasn't. Not just occasionally, but consistently, every night. And not because you drank too much water before bed. No, this happens because your bladder isn't emptying fully. Why? Because your prostate is pressing against your urethra, narrowing the passageway. Bladder works harder, strains more, and never quite finishes the job. And while you're tired during the day, your body is in a constant state of low-grade stress at night. What worries me most is that men like Bill often wait until they're exhausted, frustrated, or scared before they seek help. But the truth is, this symptom, this simple, annoying nighttime habit, is often the first true sign that your prostate is enlarging in a way that requires attention. And if left unchecked, it can quietly lead to more serious complications, including urinary tract infections, bladder damage, or even kidney strain. Ask yourself, has this become your new normal? Because the body keeps score. And when the prostate is struggling, it rarely stops at just one symptom. In fact, the next sign we're going to talk about shows up during the day, and it's often sign 2 the moment a man realizes something deeper is going on. Sign number 2, a weak or interrupted stream. One of the hardest things for men to talk about isn't pain, it's loss of control, especially when it comes to something as basic and personal as urination. I remember a patient named John, a retired truck driver in his late. He sat across from me, looked down at the floor and said, "Doc, I stand there and nothing happens, or it starts, then stops, then dribbles. I used to be done in 20 seconds, now I'm there for 5 minutes." It was his body's way of waving a red flag. A weak or interrupted stream is one of the clearest signs that the prostate has enlarged to the point where it's physically squeezing the urethra, the very tube your urine flows through. That pressure builds resistance, and instead of a steady, strong stream, you get a frustrating start and stop trickle. Many men shrug this off, chalk it up to aging, or convince themselves it's not that serious. But deep down, they know something's changed. And here's the part that's rarely talked about: how this affects your confidence. Something as private as going to the bathroom starts to make you anxious. You plan your day around restroom access. You hesitate to take long drives. You start to feel older than you are. You may not say it out loud, but it weighs on you. I've seen it, I've heard it, and I've felt it in the silence that follows when a man finally opens up about what he's going through. From a medical standpoint, this weak or interrupted flow means your bladder muscles are working overtime, trying to force urine through an increasingly narrow opening. Over time, this can lead to bladder fatigue, retention, infections, and even irreversible damage to your urinary system. And if this sounds familiar, if your stream has changed, slowed down, gotten choppy, or feels incomplete, you should know you're not alone. But you also shouldn't ignore it, because the next sign we're going to talk about reveals just how deep the prostate's impact can go, when even starting the stream becomes a challenge, and every trip to sign sheen, the restroom feels like a mental and physical battle. Sign number 3. Hesitation or delay in starting urination. There's a certain kind of silence that happens when a man stands over the toilet and waits, not because he wants to, but because he has to. The urge to go is there, but nothing happens. Not right away. 10, 15 seconds pass. Then maybe a small stream starts, weak and hesitant, like it's unsure of itself. I've had countless men tell me this is one of the most frustrating changes they've experienced, and they almost always say the same thing: I never thought I'd have to think this hard about something so simple. That's the part no one warns you about. The mental weight. It's not just the physical delay, it's the anxiety that comes with it. You feel the pressure in your bladder building, but your body isn't responding. You wonder, why is this happening? You tell yourself it's just age, but inside you know something's off. This is what we call urinary hesitancy, and it usually means your prostate is pressing against the urethra, or affecting the nerves that control bladder function. The coordination between your brain and bladder starts to misfire. It's like a traffic jam in your lower urinary tract, and it only gets worse if left untreated. I remember one man, a former Navy mechanic, who told me he used to be able to diagnose a problem in an engine just by sound. But when it came to his own body, he ignored the signals. He waited nearly a year before talking to anyone, and in that time, the pressure inside his bladder grew so intense that it led to a serious infection and an emergency hospital visit that could have been avoided. That's why this particular sign matters. When it becomes hard to start, that's often your body's way of telling you it's losing the coordination it once had. And when function begins to falter like this, the next thing to watch for is even more alarming, because it strikes without warning. It doesn't wait, it hits fast, and it can completely change. Sign 4. How you live your daily life. Sign number 4. Sudden, uncontrollable urges to urinate. There's a particular kind of fear that comes when your body gives you no warning, just a sudden, overpowering need to get to the bathroom. It's not gradual, it's not something you can plan for. One moment you're fine, and the next you're desperately looking for the nearest restroom, praying you'll make it in time. Some men do, others don't. And I've had more than one patient sit in my office with tears in his eyes, not from pain, but from the embarrassment of what happened at the grocery store, in the car, or even in front of their grandchildren. This is urgency, and when it strikes without control, it's often a sign that the bladder is no longer functioning as it should, usually because the prostate is interfering. The enlarged prostate creates pressure, irritation, and over time, causes the bladder muscles to become overly sensitive. It's like the wiring has gone haywire. Your brain and bladder used to communicate clearly. Now they shout at each other without warning, and your body scrambles to respond. And the emotional toll, it's heavier than people realize. You begin to avoid long trips. You feel anxious in public. You might even withdraw from social situations, because the fear of an accident outweighs the joy of connection. I once had a proud Korean War veteran tell me he'd rather stay home than risk another moment of humiliation in public, and that broke my heart, because it doesn't have to be this way. When urgency turns into panic, when you no longer trust your own body to hold on, it's time to act, not just to restore control, but to reclaim confidence, peace, and your freedom to live without fear. But urgency isn't the only silent threat. There's another sign, one that men almost never expect, and when it appears, it often shakes them to their core. It's the sight of something they sign 5 never want to see, especially not in the toilet. Sign number 5, blood in your urine or semen. There are moments in life that stop you cold. One of them is seeing blood where it doesn't belong. I had a patient, let's call him Martin, who came to me after noticing a faint red tint in the toilet bowl. He brushed it off the first time, told himself maybe it was something he ate, maybe a hemorrhoid, but it happened again, then again, and finally, he couldn't ignore it. When blood shows up in your urine or semen even just once, it's your body sounding the alarm. This is not something to wait out or hope goes away. In older men it can point to several serious issues: an inflamed or irritated prostate, an infection, or in some cases the earliest signs of prostate cancer. The tissue inside the prostate becomes fragile, inflamed, and more prone to bleeding under pressure. And while not all causes are life-threatening, every instance deserves immediate attention. They feel shame, anxiety, even guilt, as if they did something wrong. But this isn't about blame, it's about awareness, about catching something early before it becomes dangerous. I remember Martin's voice cracking when he told me he hadn't said a word to his wife. He was scared of what it might mean, and I told him what I tell every man who walks into my office with this concern: you're not weak for feeling fear, you're strong for facing it. The sooner we know what's going on, the sooner we can treat it, or rule out something serious. So if you've noticed even a trace of blood, don't wait, get checked. Even a single drop can be the clue that changes everything. Now, while blood is shocking and impossible to ignore, there's another symptom that's much more silent but just as devastating. It's not about your bladder or your urine, it's about something even more personal. And for many men it's the first time they realize their prostate is affecting. Sign 6. Not just their body, but their identity. Sign number 6. Sudden erectile change. This one is difficult for many men to talk about, not because they don't care, but because they do. I remember a man named Carl, 67 years old, a former firefighter who had faced burning buildings and near-death experiences without blinking. But when he sat across from me to talk about changes in his erections, he could barely make eye contact. "Doc," he said, "it's like something just switched off. I still feel the desire, but the response just isn't there anymore." When the prostate begins to fail, it doesn't always cause pain first. It affects the most personal part of a man's identity, and it does so quietly. Erections may become weaker, less frequent, or difficult to maintain. Sometimes there's no warning, just a gradual decline that leaves a man confused, embarrassed, and often too ashamed to ask for help. But let's be clear, this isn't just about sex. It's about connection, confidence, and feeling like yourself. Your prostate plays a key role in the function of your sexual system through blood flow, hormone regulation, and nerve signaling. When it begins to swell or become inflamed, it can compress nerves, restrict circulation, and disrupt everything downstream. What hurts me most is how many men suffer in silence. They don't bring it up with their doctor. They assume it's part of aging, or worse, that they've somehow failed. But the truth is, this kind of change can be your body's way of telling you something deeper is going on with your prostate. And the sooner it's addressed, the greater your chances of restoring not just function, but self-worth. Carl eventually sought treatment, and with the right support he found a way forward, not just physically but emotionally. And you can too. Because here's the truth most men don't hear enough: you are not alone. And this is not the end. In fact, as we move into the final part of this video, I want to share something that may surprise you. A single daily habit, something nearly every man over 60 does, could be making all 6 of these symptoms worse, and changing it. Conclusion might be the key to protecting your prostate for years to come. Conclusion: if you've made it this far, I want to thank you, not just for watching, but for caring enough about yourself to listen. Because the truth is, many men don't. They wait. They dismiss. They tell themselves it's just part of getting old. And by the time they seek help, the damage is already done. But now you know better. You've learned that waking up several times a night to urinate isn't just annoying. It's often the first signal that your prostate is enlarging and starting to affect your bladder. You understand that a weak or interrupted stream isn't just frustrating, it's a warning that pressure is building inside your urinary tract. You now know that hesitation before urination, sudden urges, or even accidents aren't just bad luck, they're your body pleading for attention. And perhaps most importantly, you've learned that blood in your urine or semen and unexpected changes in your sexual function are never to be ignored. These are not just inconveniences, they are signs, early, subtle, but serious signs that your prostate may be entering a critical phase. I've seen hundreds of men walk through my clinic doors carrying these symptoms silently. Proud men, strong men, husbands, veterans, fathers, brothers. And in nearly every case, the outcome improved simply because they took the first step. They paid attention. I want you to hear me clearly. This is not about fear. It's about power. The power to act early. The power to ask questions. The power to advocate for yourself, your health, and your future. Because no man should have to live with pain, shame, or uncertainty about something so treatable. Your prostate is a part of you, but it doesn't have to define your life. You have choices, you have time, and most of all, you are not alone. The next step is yours, and it could make all the difference. Thank you for watching and taking the time to care about your health. It truly matters. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone you care about. Your like helps this message reach more men who may be silently struggling and need this information now, more than ever. Just type 1 if this video spoke to you, or 0 if you think we can do better. Every bit of feedback helps us create stronger, more supportive content for you. And if you believe in what we're doing, empowering older men with real, honest health advice, consider supporting Wise Living with a donation. Every dollar goes toward making more life-saving content delivered with the care and clarity you deserve. Together, we can change the way men over 60 approach their health. It starts with awareness, and it starts with you.